Vegetables are bad. Carbs are bad. Seed oils are bad. Meat is bad. Fruit is bad. Like, what? You had to finish your food to get more food. Every time a cupcake came out, though, they said, oh, it's going to go right to your butt. Nobody's doing or should do keto for 7 years.
Hey guys, welcome back to It's Pretty Simple, a podcast where we break down fitness, nutrition, lifestyle in a way that makes sense without any fluff, no quick fixes. We just give you practical advice to help you feel strong, energized, and confident in your body. On today's episode, we have a guest. We have Mike Doehla. Am I saying that right?
Doehla. So you're close. You say it how a lot of people say it.
Okay. Mike Doehla. He's the
Yep.
founder of Strong You Nutrition, and he's built an incredible legacy in the wellness space, especially the nutrition space, helping people build sustainable nutrition habits that lead to real results. Mike has now sold Stronger You, and he's focused on sharing his knowledge to help everyone, not just athletes, but just everyday people to improve their health through smarter nutrition choices. So today the plan is to talk about fat loss, body composition, any nutritional myths, and just the emerging trends that people are following today. Mike, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. This is going to be fun.
Happy to have you here. So,
Cool.
Mike, I want to start off with the business aspect of things.
Yeah.
You built Stronger You Nutrition into a brand that has helped thousands of people achieve their goals. What do you think was the most powerful element that contributed to your success? And what do you think other people should do who want to build a successful wellness brand? Like, what should they focus on?
I think it's hard to always look back and say like what we did well, because I always want to be like real humble. I don't want to ever come off like we did this so great. But I think what we were really good at was figuring out people's individual problems, which are very common once you unpack all this stuff, and getting them to do the simple stuff while ignoring all the complicated stuff that's out there and finally get results. And I think that's where a lot of the industry lacks. A lot of the industry doesn't know how to get people to do the simple stuff. They think that they have to overcomplicate it or the clients won't listen. And what I'm very proud of is we got people to basically adhere to a caloric deficit if their goal was fat loss. And it was very simple. It was so simple. And I want other fitness professionals out there to know, and clients out there to know, that this stuff can be so simple. And if you're in the nutrition business or fitness business, you can sell simple and people will listen because it will work once they do it.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, this podcast is called It's Pretty Simple,
Yeah.
because people make it complicated. And I think when I first started in the industry, you think because people find simple too simple and they think, well, is this what I'm paying for?
Yeah.
So you tend to just overcomplicate things. Like I started as a fitness coach. So instead of giving the basics that work, stick to the basics. You try all these fancy movements and combination movements and things so that the client thinks you're giving them something special. But in reality, it's so unnecessary.
And there is sometimes we have to have novelty in there,
Of course.
because like if you have like a fitness client and they just, like maybe they can squat, bench, deadlift, do some rows, whatever, they might feel underwhelmed with that, even if it works well. So even fitness coaches can throw in some novelty. Like we had people track macronutrients, their proteins, fats, and carbs and overall calories. And if we sensed that people were getting like kind of bored with the numbers we gave them, we could mix them up a little bit and they would be like, wow, these numbers are magic. And we're like, well, we just inspired, more adherence because it was more fun to see an email this week that said something was different.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
I always tell coaches, like, as long as you're not breaking the rules of, nutritional science and fitness science, like you can mix things up a little bit for novelty.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, personally, myself as well, like I get quite bored of doing the same things over and over again.
Yeah.
And so even with my clients, with their programs, I change things up every 4 weeks.
Right.
And, it's not that big of a difference, to what
Yeah.
they're actually doing, but it's just so that they don't get bored and think this is the same thing. It's just repeating itself. So yeah.
Right. And I think that's a sign of a good coach. I think a lot of coaches in our industry, they like to be like, no, it's just all they have to do is this forever and just add weight or reps and they'll be good. And it's like, yeah, but that works for you because you love this stuff. Like this is your hobby and interest. This is a pain in the butt for like a regular person.
I mean,
right?
I get
Like,
bored.
Yeah, exactly. Like I like to bounce around from things, which is probably why I'm not super jacked. I'm not even a little jacked. Yeah.
I think same reason for me. I do a lot of different things because I need constant excitement
Yeah.
and new things happening. Yeah, even with my training, I've hired coaches actually who've given me the same plan for like I don't know 10 weeks sometimes, and I after the first
Yeah.
like five, I'm like I can't do this anymore.
Yeah, I get you.
Give me
Yeah.
something, change one movement, just one movement.
And that's why like when, when we look at like the competitors of the simple stuff, it's like it's the Orange Theories, the CrossFits, the F45s, because every day the members go in, there's something fun and new.
Hmm.
And we could borrow those business practices a little bit without
Yeah.
compromising the success of the client.
Yeah, I agree, definitely. All right, I want to jump into nutrition now
Okay.
because you are the king of nutrition.
I wouldn't
Uh,
say
I
that.
mean, you built a pretty great reputation for yourself with that. So one of the biggest challenges that people face when they're trying to improve their nutrition is usually just navigating all the conflicting advice out there. I mean, social
Yeah.
media is just shouting at your face all the time. So from your experience, what is the most important thing that people should focus on when they're, listening to what they hear, or like even if they just want to build a nutrition plan that works for them?
Yeah, this is it's complicated because there's so many different avenues I could go down with this question. But the biggest thing that I see, and the world we live in now makes it extremely difficult with the stresses, the lack of sleep, all the temptations, alcohol. We're kind of built to conserve energy, so we all want to sit down all the time. The biggest thing is like just getting people to acknowledge what they're actually doing right now and then finding the few things that they can do to adjust that. And in most cases, like I would say 90% of our clients were interested in fat loss. And many of those 90% would come to us and say, I eat pretty well, but I just can't figure it out. And there's two types of people in that category. There's the people that don't eat well but think they do, and there's the people that actually do eat well but can't figure it out. Who it turns out just eat a little bit more food than they realize, or call it more calories they consume somewhere. And that was like when I say it was like fun to build this business. It was because it was like a puzzle to me. It was like, all right, this person comes to us and they're like, I want to lose weight, but I can't figure out what's going on. And we have to uncover all different aspects of their life to figure out where are these like sneaky calories coming in. And sometimes it's simple stuff like I think I have 70-30 beef, or or I think I have 90-10 beef, but it's 70-30, so it's super high calorie. I'm eating just a little bit of peanut butter, but it turns out it's like 4 servings because they just spoon it out like it's a cup of
Mhm.
yogurt. Um, it could be drinks, it could be mindless eating. So figuring out that stuff for people, and that's like the biggest tip I can give for anyone. It's like if you're not where you want to be and you think you're eating healthy, pan out a little bit. Look at all your behaviors as if you are not the one making them. Like you're just a friend that's looking, and see where these calories are coming from. And a lot of it's usually not people that are lying about what they're doing. That can happen. We have stories to tell if you want to hear them, but it usually is people just don't know what they don't know. They
Mhm.
munch, they don't log correctly. They might have like a Starbucks drink every morning that is like the calorie equivalent to cupcakes. And they're just like, I don't even eat anything. It's like,
Mhm.
well, it's coming from somewhere. Let's figure it out. And those people that acknowledge it and are open to that do the best. But the unfortunate part about all this is like all these influencers and all these supposed experts with hundreds of thousands of followers, way more than we have, they might say the opposite because they have some alternative wacky method to sell. And it's very hard to combat that information when, luckily I have the track record of these processes working for people, but not everyone has that. Like there's some people that are just starting that have the same nutritional philosophies as we did, but they're battling people with 500,000 followers. So for the consumer, I don't blame them for not listening to our simple advice when it sounds like that simple advice is too good to be true. So they look at all these other things. There's books on it. Oh, it's not calories. It's this, that, and the other thing. Well, no,
Yeah.
like it's calories. It's incredibly hard to manage them in this environment, but we have a lot of tips and tricks on how to do that.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with that. Well, coming
Yeah.
to calorie counting, so I mean, it is the most reliable way to track your intake, right?
Right.
Like this is something that I encourage most of my clients to do if they have the capacity to it and having the time and willing
Mhm.
to obviously learn, because I've seen an instant with one of my clients who nothing was changing for her for so long and she just refuses to track. She's just, I can't be bothered. I can't be bothered. I'm like, but then you can't complain. Let's
Yeah,
do one
and I'm
thing.
I'm with you on that. There's a lot of that. For some reason, that's controversial to think like that, and
Yeah.
I don't agree with that. I think that, I mean, we've had 50,000 plus clients, and almost every one of them tracked, and we got them to track because we showed them the value of tracking, and we would talk just like that. And I want to be clear, we had excellent customer service ratings. So like, I'm not just like this hard ass coach. Like I'm not like that. But I would say to people straight up, like, you're not getting results. You refuse to track. The problem that you have is a lack of data. This gives you data to make informed decisions and changes. Why don't you want to do it? And the problem is, people think tracking is so much harder and so much more time consuming than it really is. And my argument is, it's actually very simple. You just think it's complicated because you don't know how to do it yet. So maybe we can show you that.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I mean, usually I always tell people it might seem like it's a bit tedious, but once,
Yeah.
if you think about what you're eating every day, almost every single day, it's pretty much the same thing. So it's
Yeah.
not going to be that hard. So this client like finally said, okay. And she went away 'cause she's like, I barely eat. And then I gave her
Yeah.
her macros, I gave her her calories. And then I think it was midday and she's like, oh my God, I finished everything and I haven't even had a proper meal. And I'm like,
Right.
there we go.
Exactly. It's like they think we just make this stuff up. It's like, no, I know. And because like most people are doing the same things. They're just picking, they're snacking, they're maybe eating a little bit too much of a healthy food because it's, it's healthy and it can't, make you gain weight, but it absolutely can if you have too much of it. Um, yeah, I mean, I love these stories because it's everybody's the same with this stuff.
Yeah. But what do you think are the biggest pitfalls that people face when they're just relying on calorie counting?
Uh I think they complicate things too much. I think what we used to see, a lot of people wanted these complicated recipes that had, for example, like six different ingredients. These six different ingredients had six different, weights to them. So they had to weigh them out. They had to enter them in whatever app they were using. If they miss one of them, if they miss enter one of those things, the entire, macro profile is off. So we would tell people like, build your meals on like dominant macro foods. So like, the lean meats. If they're vegetarian, there's vegetarian options. The carb sources that don't really have other macronutrients, the fat sources. So like chicken, potatoes, and olive oil and vegetables. Can you make a meal with that? And people would say, well, it's boring. And I would say, okay, well, have you heard of the spice rack? And I would
Yeah.
joke about stuff like that. Have you heard of sauces? Like you could add stuff. You don't have to make a meal with 50 different ingredients because that's just going to stress you out. And I used to tell people, if it takes you longer to enter your meal in MyFitnessPal than it did to make it or eat it, like you got to stop that. It has to be simple. Um, I'm sorry. What was it? What were the other questions?
It was just about the pitfalls that people
Yeah,
face. Yeah.
drinking, the mindless eating, not knowing what was happening, kind of just not planning. That was, I think, I should reverse. That was the biggest thing, is not planning. People would just kind of eat throughout the day, and then like your client, they would say, "Oh my, I ate all my macros for today." And it's
Yeah.
like, well, guess what? uh, I'm going to teach you how to plan. And then people would pre-enter their meals and they would say, oh, I need 30 more grams of protein. And I'd say, okay, well, where is protein in your day? Hopefully every meal. Can you add a little bit of that food that is protein? And they would say, wow, okay, I added 2 more ounces, 3 more ounces, whatever it was. And it would round out. And the same goes for any other macronutrient. It was so easy. We had it down to like a science. Like think about how many times a day you want to eat, have your proteins cooked and prepared ahead of time. The other macronutrients are always easier to add. Like you could get microwave bags of rice. There's even like bags of potatoes frozen that you could have. You could just have fruits and vegetables. Like it's so easy to add those macros. Protein is the one you always want to have prepared.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, pre planning is super important. I think most people tend to think, okay, if I'm tracking my food, like the day is gonna start, and as I'm making my food, I'm going to do it. So by the end of the day, they're still not actually hitting it. So putting this data in, it's kind of useless.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. it's very messy, and then people realize, like, what they realize is they have a breakfast of like maybe a few eggs, maybe sometimes they have sausage, maybe buttered toast, and they're like, wow, I have no fat left for the day. I'm like,
Hmm.
yeah, okay, this is where we start talking about the importance of maybe leaner proteins and egg whites, and maybe you toss the sausage. Like, it doesn't matter if it was turkey sausage, maybe it's a little bit healthier than the pork sausage, and that's a whole different rabbit hole, the word
Yeah.
health, right? um, because it's not just what you put in your mouth, it's how you live your entire life. So people would start to realize, like, if I plan, I actually think about food less. And that was one of the biggest things for a lot of our clients. And I'm sure yours is like, they come to us and they're like, I just think about food all the time. I don't want to think about it. And obviously, like, you're going to think about it because it's just a human reaction, and it's natural for your body to be like, hey, food, we don't want you to die. Keep eating. But if you plan it, you just kind of go through the day and you're like, okay, lunchtime, I have my meals planned.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. And what about switching? Well, switching, yeah, from calorie counting to intuitive eating, like having that transition. Like, is that something you did as well?
yeah, we would. So typically, what would happen is people would think, I'll do 12 weeks, 6 months, a year, whatever, with Stronger You. And then after that, I'll just kind of be good. And it's like, well, you can't do the program or track and then just go to not tracking, because you might have, say, 3 months of this plan and these habits built. But if you're 40 years old, you have a lot of years of habits that you still need to unbreak, or break. And what people would do is they would get off plan and they would kind of like just do whatever. And they would say, oh, I gained weight back. I need you guys again. And then we started to realize, like, we're not maybe fixing them forever unless we have some sort of like transitional type plan or coaching. So we would just have our coaches help them transition from like tracking everything to tracking most things. Give them days where they would be like, okay, we're not going to have you track anything today, and see how they react to that. And you could probably guess how some people would do it. Some people would look at it as like permission, like the parents are gone, let's throw a party.
Mm.
Other people would say, let's see, I'm not going to track today, but I kind of know how to build out my meals. And so we have levels to it. And I even wrote like a blog about it on our website, which I think you could even, if someone wanted to search for it, it was like search Stronger You levels of tracking. So like you could go down, like you could eyeball stuff after a while. You probably don't want to eyeball things that are super caloric dense, like the oils and the meals out and stuff like that. You want to be careful with that stuff. But I want to be clear for people, like, I don't track anything right now, and I maintain my weight like within a few pounds most of the year. I don't want people to think they have to track for the rest of their life. I want them to look at this as tracking for as long as it takes to answer all the questions you might have about all your behaviors around food. And then you could kind of graduate from it. But you don't go from, like, if you look at it like college, you don't go from it like I'm all in to I'm not enrolled at all. You
Mm.
kind of like reduce your workload a little bit as you go.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense because I get a lot of people who tell me, "Yeah, I don't want to track it all. I'm just really good at intuitive eating." And I'm like, "Well, if that's the case, then why are we having this conversation for you to
Yeah.
start? Something is wrong, right?" And I always tell
Yeah.
them, if you don't want to track, like, obviously, I don't want you to track forever. Like, I don't track either. I do it once
Yep.
in a while. It's, if I go on
Like a
this
tune up.
vacation, yeah, where I'm just like lazy, I've just been eating all the time, and that's quite rare. But I try to do
Yeah.
it once a year, just to get myself also the discipline to go to the gym and all the stuff after a break. But yeah, they tend to say, yeah, I just intuitively eat, and I'm like, well, obviously it's not working for you,
Right.
right? So I'm not going to force you to do it for a long time. That's how it gets started. But let's
Yeah.
start to see, because how can you intuitively eat when you have no idea what the macros of the food is?
Yeah.
And then I always ask one question: do you know how many grams of protein is in 150 grams of chicken breast?
Yeah.
No, that's it.
Okay. Right.
If you don't know that, how can you intuitively eat? It's
And
very
that's,
simple.
yeah, I love this because we're on the same page here, because like you have to, people don't think like this, right? We're the weirdos in the industry, right? That the human body and evolution, like it everything about it is like, we need this system of ours, right? Needs to remind us to eat. Now you put that system in this environment that has all these delicious processed foods. You mix that with the stresses of life and the convenience of like these apps that you could just push a few buttons and you could have any type of food to your door, like ever, how can you eat intuitively with those automatic responses in your brain? You can't. You have to self regulate somehow. And that's what tracking does. And tracking will build better habits than any other type of eating program out there. I would bet my life on it. If you have someone track for 6 months or 3 months or whatever, they're going to learn so much about themselves and food, way more than any other program, especially all these fads that are just like, cut this, cut that, do this, do that. They're not teaching you anything. So they could work, but they're not teaching. And that's what I want people to know. Like, yeah, maybe it'll suck for a couple months, but it sucks for 3 months instead of 40 more years of struggle.
Yeah.
So pick your battle. Are you doing it? Are you trying to do future you a favor? Or are you just trying to make current you a little bit more comfortable? Which I'd argue you're not comfortable. That's why you're talking to a coach.
Yeah, I agree. A lot of people that start with me as well, they like I give them the option if they're absolute beginners and really have no clue about anything, even like how to like I've never even heard of MyFitnessPal. I tell them
Yeah.
to start doing the balanced plate method and food log. Send me
Yeah.
what you're eating, so then I look. Obviously it's not
You're
going to be
comfortable. Yeah.
accurate enough because I don't know the oils they're using or anything, but that's a good starting point for me to do with them for a month until they're like, okay, now I'm ready, and then we take it from there. But for me, if somebody says I'm ready to track calories,
Yeah.
yes, it's my favorite thing.
You're
Like,
more flexible than me. I was like, okay, you don't want to do it. Let me talk about the value. Let me show you how to do it. We're all doing it over here. So,
yeah,
let's just do it. And
I
I would get in debates with people in like the precision nutrition group, like even people that work there, they're like, we do the different method. And I'm like, hey, okay. But everybody thinks that these adults are too, for lack of a better word, too dumb and lazy to do it. And my argument was they're not dumb and lazy. They'll do it. They just need to know how. They
yeah.
need to know why. So I like pushing people into it because it would just give us all the data and solve all their problems right away.
Yeah, no, I agree. But I usually push people to do it as well. But on recent occasions, honestly,
Yeah,
the reason that it's kind of I'm becoming more flexible is because I've started to notice a little bit of a language barrier with me and
I
my
see. Yeah.
clients, and then it kind of gets hard to explain. So the more I get
That
to
makes
know
sense.
them, then it's like okay.
Mhm.
But yeah, for me, calorie counting is the way to go.
Yeah.
Okay, I want to come into the amazing trends that we have going on these days.
Amazing, huh?
Amazing trends that we have. I okay, so we everyone was going into keto and carnivore diet and all these things, which I think it's still around, but I don't see as much. I don't know if it's my algorithm or not, but
Yeah.
I don't see that stuff anymore. But now
I
we're
think a
on
lot of them are dying out. I
right.
think, I started Stronger You in 2015. I sold it in 2021. A lot of that time, we were battling like intermittent fasting and keto. And I joke to people like, I want you to message me your apology because you used to argue with me that my method was wrong and your methods are not even being talked about anymore.
Yeah.
They're just like, they're buried now.
That's true. I mean, like I sometimes get people like, okay, so give me a bit of a hit of history of your fitness and your nutrition. Well, I
Yep.
was doing keto and it really worked for me. Well, it really worked for you, but you're not doing it anymore. So that means it didn't actually work for you because you couldn't
Yep.
sustain to do it in the long term. My question is why do you think these kind of diets become so popular? Is it just because they look like easy fixes? Because I think it's more torture than counting your calories.
Yeah, you have like these charismatic like leaders behind them usually, whether it's like, some doctor that is a doctor of something completely different that is like, "Hey, I'm going to make a bunch of money selling nutrition books and courses and,
Like
apps."
that woman right now who's a chiropractor who tells everybody that food is bad and I don't know.
Is that the one that has like the orange
Yes.
glasses? Yeah, so you know Dave Asprey, right? The bulletproof coffee guy. I
Yeah.
call her Girl Asprey. She's like the same. She's like
She's
the
a
same.
chiropractor. It's funny.
Yeah, so I mean, it's you have these charismatic leaders. They create villains in, whatever food they want to take out. In keto, it was carbs, and intermittent fasting, it was breakfast. In carnivore, it's fruits and
Everything.
vegetables. Yeah, it's kind of crazy, right? They make people think that, the big, industry and government like lied to them about food. And then they just sell some stuff to them that sounds like magic, right? It's like, this is the problem. You have this problem. I have this solution. Nothing ever worked for you. And what they do a lot successfully is tell people, like, oh, tracking calories doesn't work. It's not about calories. You've done it. And look where you are. It's like, well, no, they never really did it. That's the problem. People never did it. So that's kind of the thing. You got to get them to do it. But with all these fads and quick fixes, they work incredibly well for a lot of people for a little bit, because you might know where I'm going with this, because they remove all the foods that people are overeating. So they, by default, reduce their calorie consumption. So some people will say, well, why do I track? Well, why can't I just do that? Well, because those diets probably don't let you eat the foods that you actually do enjoy, which could be a problem if you eat too many. But like someone like me, like my wife loves to bake. I eat baked goods every day. I'm still in shape. How? Because it works into my allotted calories for the day. And now I'm not tracking them, but I know that if I'm going to have a piece of cake later, I'll eat a little bit fewer calories during the day. And on a lot of these really strict fad diets, and people get offended when you call these things these fads. But again, back to my point earlier, who's really talking about keto or intermittent fasting anymore?
Yeah.
So there's your proof. It's a fad. It went away. So what happens is they cut out these foods, they lose some weight, and they're like, oh, this is the greatest. Like your example of the person said, well, keto worked for me. Well, yeah, it worked for you because on keto, you're not allowed to have any of those good foods. Like, what are you eating?
Fun foods.
Cheese, meat, butter? Like,
Yeah.
come on. It's kind of crazy. Yes, you can eat some vegetables, but not too much. So
Yeah, I find that wild.
it's insane to me. It really is. And I'm not I fell for all this stuff back in the day too. Like I was a big paleo person. I thought, oh, cavemen ate like this. Let's do that. And then I realized I'm like, wait, I'm afraid of beans. Like beans is one of the things we can't have. That's
Yeah.
kind of crazy. So then, you start to learn some things. You start to realize the people that are telling you that this diet is great are also getting paid on the other side. And now people could argue that I was also getting paid, but it was like, hey, believe me or not, look at what's happening.
Mhm.
Like these people are living longer. Now I started that business 10 years ago. There are definitely people alive today because they found our program. That's like so cool. I got a message the other day. Someone was like, it's been 7 years since I did your program and I'm maintaining results and I'm healthy. Like
Yeah.
that's the coolest thing. Like nobody's doing or should do keto for 7 years.
Yeah. I
It's
mean,
not healthy. Yeah.
one, I think it's harder to do than counting calories, because when you count calories, you can allot space for the things you
Yeah.
enjoy, and in keto, you just cut everything out. And also, having that much protein and fats is going to keep you full. So, like you said, your calorie consumption is going to be
Yeah.
lower. But now that we don't hear too much about keto, intermittent fasting is still floating around
Yeah.
a little bit. But now I find it really amusing that we're starting to target actual foods, not even food groups,
Seed
actual
oils. Yeah.
foods. Carrots. There's this woman saying carrots are not real foods, and it's gone from a fad diet to just open up your fridge and throw everything out because
I know.
everything's bad for you, and it's absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah. And I'm sure you've seen like the people on like social media that'll do they'll do like a collaboration, not a collaboration, but like they'll take the videos of a bunch of these influencers and they'll show you what you can eat. And at the end of the day, like if you listen to all them, you literally can only eat ice cubes
Hmm.
or water
Yeah,
because
it's
they're like vegetables are bad, carbs are bad, seed oils are bad, meat is bad, fruit is bad. Like what?
what am I supposed to eat?
Right. So
Yeah.
as a consumer of this stuff, like I would be so confused too.
I mean, for me, I was like, come on, people don't actually fall for these things. And then, like, I had like my mom send me something of I think the carrot one. And I was like, Mom, no,
You're like, no, stop being tricked by
no.
the
So
charismatic lady on
my mom's
Instagram.
gonna eat. My mom likes to drink, likes to smoke. She's never gonna stop, but she's sending it to me because she wants me to see. Oh, this is like what's happening right now, and I was like, that means people are consuming this and actually believing it, and it shocks me
It's
that
yeah,
people would actually believe it. Like somebody's telling you on the internet, if you, like it's social media, half of it is complete bullshit anyway.
yeah,
Like go and do your research. If you're gonna cut out carrots, research it yourself without listening to
yeah,
somebody. Like somebody say, "Oh my God, did you know that this happened?" Or "Oh my God, this. Where did you hear it?" Instagram.
Yeah.
It's not valid. It's not a valid source, is it?
Yeah, but and that's all it takes is someone that's like very popular. They take off. All these people, they're all it's the same. It's like a playbook. And my theory is these people they put their phone away and then they go live their life and they don't even follow what they tell everyone else to do because they are characters. They become characters. It's like wrestling. Like The Rock is not. He's Dwayne Johnson. He's got his own thing, right?
Yeah.
But when he's in the ring or whatever, he's this character. When these people are on Instagram or whatever, TikTok, they're characters. Then they go off, they live their life with their bucket of money from all the people that they're taking advantage of, and it's sad. It really bothers me. It was the reason I started my company because everyone was so full of crap and everyone was being misled. I'm like, you guys know you can have cereal, right? Like this is totally fine. And early on, like we were working with a ton of CrossFit athletes who were working their butts off, and they were just like so afraid of food. And I'm like, do you know like athletes eat this stuff? This is fine. You have 400 carbs a day, 400 grams of carbs a day. You don't need to just eat broccoli to fill that in.
Yeah, and it's really sad because then people start to have a bad relationship with food, and
Yes.
then to lead into eating disorders down the line.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And then their kids, like we had so many of our clients had the stories like my mom made me finish all my food before I got dessert. And it's like, so you had to finish your food to get more food. Every time a cupcake came out though, they said, oh, it's going to go right to your butt. It just, all these old school food beliefs like really messed a lot of people up.
yeah, for sure. I mean, it's funny because when you're a kid, they do force you to finish everything on your plate, and
Yeah.
then as you get older, they're like, "Don't you think you've had enough?" You know, and it's like,
Yeah.
well, I'm
It's like, oh,
confused
guess what you're
now.
doing? You're training your kid to always finish their food, and they're going to be an adult that doesn't consciously remember that, but they know, like, oh, I have a bunch of food, I'm going to finish it. They go out to a restaurant, and especially around here, like you get a plate of food, like it could be 2,500 calories
Are you
depending
in
on
the
what it is.
States?
Yeah, I'm in New York,
Yeah.
and it was a quick story. We got takeout from an Italian restaurant recently, maybe like last year, and my father-in-law had this pasta dish that was like a creamy tomato sauce. So there's heavy cream in it. There was sausage in it, and you could just see the grease at the bottom. And I was like, Bob, this is probably like 3,000 calories. He thought it was about 800. I'm like, no, man.
Mhm.
And he wanted to like debate me. I'm like, dude, I don't know, man. I kind of know about food stuff. Like,
Yeah. I mean, I must say though, in the States, like the last time I had, okay, I've never really gained that much weight in my life, but I went from 50 kilos to 60 kilos
yeah,
on my last trip to California. And the trip was for 10 days. That was
yeah.
it. Meals are so big,
They're so big. That's the thing. They're gigantic, and everyone wants to finish them because they
and they
they
don't let
pay
you
good
share
money.
either. They make you pay to share it. And I don't get that concept
Yeah, that's
either.
weird. Not everyone does. And I was actually talking about this with my wife last week. We were at a restaurant. We were sharing stuff, and I was like, those restaurants that charge you extra to share? I'm like, that's so weird to me.
It's absolutely ridiculous. But yeah, I
Yeah,
mean, I think the food, the way that you eat there is very different. I mean, here it's better because it's a mostly Mediterranean diet. But
yeah,
my clients are in Kuwait, and they
okay,
are very much like America. Like they
yeah.
follow the Western trend
A
a
lot of
lot.
snack foods and things
Yeah,
like
I
that.
think
That
I think Kuwait has the highest level of diabetes,
I didn't know that. That's interesting.
and it's a very
Yeah,
small country. It's like tiny.
yeah, it's a lot of like this like snack culture,
Hmm.
like, and I get it. Like it's extremely difficult, especially like working parents. Like so now you have to get your kids ready, you have to go to work, and now you have to prep all these meals and you have to work out. Like where does it happen? And
Yeah.
that's like we would find solutions for them. You have all these people, they're like, don't eat anything processed, which is, you need context there because cutting something means processed. Don't eat anything in a package. It's like, well, like I said earlier, there's you could get rice out of packages. You could get
Hmm.
frozen peas and broccoli out of packages. You could get a rotisserie chicken from a grocery store and just pick it apart and have your protein for the week. It's like you don't have to make all these complicated meals all the time. And I think a lot of these influencers, they encourage people to, one, feel really bad about themselves if they don't do all this extra work,
Hmm.
and two, they have them do things that just don't make any sense.
Yeah, I mean, like for me, I have no responsibilities. I'm alone.
Yeah.
I But I still don't particularly like being in the kitchen. So my
Yeah.
meals are like 20 minutes and I buy the exact same ingredients from the supermarket and I make
Yep.
different things with the exact same
Yeah.
ingredients because, like you said earlier, spice rack, you know?
Yep. I'm glad you said that because I used to get pushback on that. I don't want to eat chicken. I'm like, what do you mean? You could bake chicken, you could make it in a pan with something, you could grill it, you could ground it, you can make tacos, you could do anything with
Yep,
it's like
exactly.
be creative here, especially with like all these AI, chat GPT. Like just plug in some foods and say, make me 7 meals.
So
Boom.
true. I mean,
Yeah.
I have Greek yogurt and I literally use it in my breakfast. I use it in my chicken as well, you know?
Yeah.
It's easy to do.
No.
But yeah, like I said, I'm alone. So I have a lot of time. My clients on the other hand are working, they've got little kids, they don't have the same time as me, right? So
Right.
when I coach them, I don't coach them like I would coach myself,
Right.
obviously. And this has come with like years of experience of like understanding what their lives are like. I haven't got kids, I haven't got anything.
Yep.
My life is I eat, I work, I train. Like that's
Yep.
it. So I have the time, like these influencers do, to say, do this, do that. And I could very easily make my page that way and say meal prep
Yep.
for the week. I don't even meal prep because I
Yeah.
don't like meal prepping personally. That's my thing.
Yeah.
But I have the same ingredients. But I don't do that because my audience is not living the same life as me. And
Right.
I don't want to make them think that it's that easy.
Right, they don't have to.
No.
Like, and then you have some of like our colleagues out there that are like, we all have the same 24 hours in a day.
No.
Priorities. It's like, okay, again, uh, you have a working couple. They get the kids off to school. They go to work. What are they not supposed to hang out with each other, the husband and wife, because they have to go to the gym at 9 o'clock at night? Like, how does that work?
Yeah.
So some sacrifice has to happen there.
Yeah, definitely. And I
Yeah.
think that's super important. But this is a problem that there's so many influencers out there. They're just health and wellness influencers, but they're not certified for anything. But
Yeah.
people
Yeah.
think this is how I should be living. And if I'm not living this way, I'm behind in life.
Yeah.
And I'll be
Well, and everybody
honest,
sees they see the package. They see like the fit body. They
yeah,
don't know what goes behind it.
exactly. But I'll be honest, I've felt at one point as well watching all these women, this is my morning routine. And I used
Yeah.
to have a morning routine, but my life works in seasons. I decide what I want for the
Yeah.
next few months, whenever, and how I'm
My
feeling, my
morning
energy.
routine is determined by when my kids get up and say, "Daddy."
Yeah, fair. And like I used to wake up at 5 a.m. because I had a different life. I had a job, everything. Then I
Yep.
tried to keep that up here. And then I was like, I don't need to. I live in
No.
Spain. The sun doesn't come out till like 8 a.m. What am I going to wake
Oh
up
yeah.
for? So,
Right.
so the routine changes and everything changes. Sometimes I'll watch, well, not anymore, but I would watch these girls and, their days are just, and I'm like, am I not doing enough? Why am I not able to like do as much as them? Why am I not? And then I got to a point where I was like, pretty sure they're not doing this every single day of the year because when I do my stuff and I'm on my grind, I challenge myself to do it for 60 days just to
Mm.
build some discipline. And then I keep the good
Yeah.
things and then I take it easy.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do feel like I should be doing more. So I can't even imagine what just regular people who are not coaches feel like when they are looking at these things.
Yeah. It's kind of crazy, and regular people need to realize that a lot of these influencers, like this is their entire life, and that's like all they do, and they have teams of people behind it. So like you can't feel bad if you can't keep up with what they're doing, and you have no idea how happy these people are. Like
Yeah.
these people might be fit, but they might be miserable and maybe even actually unhealthy,
Yeah.
which I'd argue a lot of these really, really fit people are because they're just, especially the mental health of it all. It's
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with that. But yeah, I get like I've had my sister send me some of these influencers and the way that they make their content, and I'm like, I'm not an influencer. I'm a
yeah,
coach. I want to teach, and two, like they're not making this content on their own. Like you said, they have a
oh yeah,
team behind
they have
them.
a
I don't.
team.
I
Yeah,
may have the time to record stuff, but I have other
you
things to
have to
do.
basically become like a producer of content. Like
Yeah.
you're a fitness person. You're not a like same with me. I don't want to do that. Like I know how long that probably takes them or their
Mhm.
team. So
Yeah, I mean it's
no
part of
way.
the job, that's for sure.
Right.
But coming to a few more trends actually. So last year I was seeing a lot of cortisol face
Yeah.
everywhere. Everyone was on about it, and now there's nothing. And now the new trend that's come along is the text on all these videos. This is what I eat to balance my hormones. It's all about balancing your hormones. What is your take on these? Do you think they're just simply repackaged advice?
Yeah,
Oh,
it's BS. Like, one, hormones don't need to be balanced per se. This is just made up like jargon. Um, Two, like what you're gonna see is like if say you're 50 pounds overweight and you lose that weight, like you're gonna be in a good place in terms of hormones. I think a lot of people put too much stock in the hormone stuff. Um, what you tend to see is hormones will influence a lot of things, but they won't be the direct reason something happens. Someone will say, I can't lose weight because of my hormones. It's like, well, it's still because of the calories, but the hormones are like your high school friends that are influencing you to do things that you know you shouldn't be doing. So it's more marketing for fitness people to get clients. Because if I say, and I had so many people over the years tell me, "Oh, you're just some dude, you don't know anything about the hormones that women are dealing with." And I'm like, "Okay, cool. You could think that. Can I interest you in a conversation with the 5,000 people that we helped in the last year that are just like you that came to us and said, I can't lose weight because of my hormones?" And then they
yeah.
lost the weight and we didn't even know about their hormone stuff. Like, I don't care to hear, like, I don't care to know exact numbers of hormone stuff because it doesn't, like, you need to move past that. So it's just another thing. It's like in the keto diet, it's don't do this. In this hormone type coaching now, it's this is the problem. And it's
Yeah.
always like I would be in a lot of Facebook groups helping people with nutrition just because I loved it. And people would be like, I'm doing everything right. I'm not losing weight. Everyone would say, oh, it's your hormones. It's your hormones. It's your hormones. It's like, no, it's food that you don't know you're consuming or you're not
Mhm.
acknowledging for whatever reason, maybe guilt and shame. Let's, get that out of the way. It's not your hormones.
Yeah.
So it's just another thing that the industry is doing. It's another trend. I still see the cortisol thing, but you have these coaches that are like, oh, I will help you balance your hormones.
It's
And
like
as a
they just
struggling,
take this
especially
thing.
struggling woman that has all this societal pressure to be perfect, like they see that and they're like, ooh, that's my problem. I'm gonna buy that. So it's great marketing. It's just really sleazy.
Yeah, I mean, I can't get myself to do it. Honestly,
No.
I've had people come to me and say I have hormonal issues, and I'm like, probably not. Let's try these things first before you
Yeah.
go get tested.
Yeah, you need
And
to go to the endocrinologist, not,
yeah,
a
but like
random
not
fitness coach on the internet.
exactly. And
Yeah.
so for me, it's like I find it quite cringe because I'm like,
Yeah.
I know this person who's posting this saying, this is what I eat to balance my hormones, or what I do to balance my hormones, or what I do to reduce cortisol phase. They're following the same simple steps.
Cortisol face. Like, where did this even, where isn't it so great? Where does this stuff come from? Cortisol face.
I don't
Like,
know. It's so
what do you
weird.
know?
Then I look at it and I'm like, okay, so I get that now people are like, oh, there must be something wrong with my hormones, and so they like
Yeah.
go to that coach who's saying balance your hormones. But that coach is gonna give you probably the same advice that I'm gonna
Exactly.
give you, but it's marketing, which is
Yeah.
great. But I can't get myself to do it.
I know.
I just think I don't want to just put that kind of label on it.
Yeah. And I try to give some people the benefit of the doubt and I'm like, maybe they don't know they're wrong. And
Hmm.
they're, whoever their mentor was or whatever course they took or whatever nonsensical certification, maybe they just don't know that they're wrong. So they just keep repeating it. But
Hmm.
I think it's more people know and it's
Yeah,
just marketing.
it's just marketing. I mean, me doing things the way I do, and I don't put out these reduce this, that, this, that. I do think it does affect my business in a way that less people are probably attracted to listening
Yeah.
to me because you're not pointing out something bad.
Right.
Yeah.
What we do is we basically say some of the decisions you're making are wrong and we will help you fix them. These people are saying it's not your fault.
Hmm.
It's this. And it's like what's more attractive to someone? It's me that's the problem or
Yeah.
it's something out of my control. So of course people flock to that stuff. It's just like common sense business why it would work, but I'm like you, I couldn't do that. And
Yeah.
like I hope our story has inspired other coaches to realize that they don't have to do it, but it might be a little harder at times.
Yeah. That's true. So I want to come to fat loss and body composition. So the main thing with this is consistency, right?
Yep.
So how can someone create a sustainable nutrition plan that's not going to require them to obsess over every calorie or food choice, but they can still achieve their fat loss and body composition goal. And I think this is geared more towards people who may be on the spectrum of having some sort of eating disorder, but maybe not knowing it, just an
Yeah.
obsessive personality.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things they can do. One I think is they need some structure. Like they need some staples in their life, like the high proteins, higher fiber foods, fewer of the ultra processed foods. When I say that, think of like all the packaged multi ingredient foods. Not that multiple ingredients are necessarily bad. It just means it's probably a food that has low satiety, which means you're not going to be full when you eat it, and it's going to have high calories. So you want to watch that stuff. Usually like 3 to 4, 5 feedings a day, limiting snacking again, because snacks inherently are lower protein. They're usually lower fiber. They're usually high calorie and they're not satisfying. So they are enjoyable, but they are not satisfying. I think reducing liquid calories. So, like, become a big fan of water. You can flavor it in numerous ways. You can have diet sodas, you can have seltzers, you can have black coffees, but watch all those additives, especially like if you're drinking alcohol. Like, you might want to reduce that. Not only does alcohol have calories, but it makes people hungrier. Lowers their inhibition. So they're like, screw my diet, screw my coach. I don't care. I'm just going to have it. And it disrupts sleep, which influences more eating, less working out, less
Yeah.
planning, all that stuff. So not everybody has to track. I think it's a great thing if people are willing to do it and acknowledge it. But there are certain populations like eating disorder, people that might not want to do it. And there are still ways that they can achieve fat loss. So high protein, high fiber, reduce ultra processed foods. Really, really, I mean, I get pushback on this, but really try to cut out snacking entirely. Don't drink a lot of calories. Don't eat out a lot because there's always hidden calories there. And then on the fitness end, lift your weights, do your cardio, go for walks, and you're probably fine.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. And what about detox diets? So not doing a detox diet to just be on this weird detox, but just to reset, because I don't think it's the like not my generation or even the younger generation, but slightly older than me. Like I've got some clients who are a bit older than me who come from
Yeah.
that kind of diet culture from back in the day,
The
and they
40s,
tend
50s. Yeah. 40-year
exactly,
old, 50-year-old like that. Yeah.
and they tend to think that, and they're convinced, not just think that this is the best way to restart. You know,
Well, I mean, yeah, no, it's not necessarily.
so what advice would you give them? That's the best way for them to restart if they've like had some horrible months and they want to get back
Yeah.
into nutrition and they're like, I'm gonna detox first.
Yeah, I would say, well, why do you want to do that? And they would say, well, it's just gonna get off some weight really quick. I need some vitamins. Some of these detoxes, maybe they have like, some good vitamins and stuff in there. They usually just make you poop or something. But I would say, well, you could reduce your calories with your diet. You can eat your vegetables and fruits to get your vitamins. You don't need to buy this thing when you can just go to the grocery store and start tomorrow.
Mhm.
And this is like a big conversation about weight. And I think a lot of these people that do it, they like them because they'll be, say they're 200 pounds. They could do a detox and get down to 190 in like a week. But it's like, it's just water weight and a lack of food mass in your system. So when you start eating again and you have carbohydrates that bring in water into the cells, you're going to weigh maybe 196 after this. So why not just eat better today? And like, if you actually think you're toxic, then you have liver and kidney that should handle any of the dirty stuff that's going on in the body. So I think it's just, again, it's marketing. It's like,
Yeah,
hey, you have toxic stuff in your body. Let's get rid of it and reset you. And you can't really argue with the mental side of it because that's what, some people need that. But I just like when people came to us with that, I would just question it. Say, well,
yeah.
what is it about that? And then you usually uncover, oh, I just want to lose weight really quick or I
Hmm.
need a reset. It's like, okay, well, you've been eating like an animal like that found a dumpster of food. So why don't we just go to someone that wants protein and vegetables? Why don't
Yeah.
you try that?
Yeah, because I recently had somebody tell me, yeah, I want to start, but I'm first going to do this detox because I want to be X amount of, I think it was like 5 kilos less, which will happen when I do this. And then I'm going to start. And I'm like, that makes no sense because you're just going to lose water weight. You're
Yeah.
eating less. So when you start and we start work and you start eating and we start building, going over your calories and you start eating normally, those 5 kilos might come back. So tell me what's the point? It
And you
makes
know
no
the worst
sense.
part about it is in their mind, it's going to be your fault.
Hmm.
Because when they did the detox, they were down 10 pounds. Now they're with you, they're back up 5. Now your program doesn't work.
Yeah.
So it's in everyone's best interest for you to convince them, or any coach to convince these people to not do this silly stuff, because when they start eating food again, like you said, they're just going to gain weight back, and it's going to be all your fault. In reality, it's not your fault. It's this silly detox that just took liquid out of them.
Yeah. Well, I mean, flexibility now in nutrition is the most important thing when it
Yeah.
comes to long term success, right? But I feel like there's a lot of confusion between what flexibility actually means in a practical sense, because I think people feel overwhelmed and they think that if flexible approach means just overeating and then restricting in the week, and they don't tend to have that balance. So
Yeah.
how can they actually do this without feeling like they're constantly indulging or going off track?
You set this up perfectly. I have this term. I don't know if I invented it. I probably didn't. I probably saw it somewhere and was like, I'm going to adopt that to food. Structured flexibility. So you need the structure, and the structure could be number of meals per day, could be calories and macros, and the flexibility could be how you fill those macros in. So you can eat mostly whole foods, but you can absolutely have ice cream every day if you wanted, if you account for it. You could have a cookie, you could have a piece of pizza, or maybe one day you have a meal out and you save calories for that. So you need both. You need some structure and you need some flexibility, or else it just gets all wacky. And everyone knows the term everything in moderation, but moderation, it has a very subjective definition for most people. Moderation to me probably means something very different to someone who struggled with weight their whole life. So for them, moderation can be, oh, I'm just going to drink 4 nights a week instead of 7. For me, moderation is, oh, maybe that person should probably drink once a month.
Hmm.
So it's getting down to a clear definition of what moderation is, and the structured flexibility approach kind of manages that for people. Not everyone likes the answer they get because it often means they can't have as much of the thing they want, but that thing that they want is the very reason they come to us in the first place.
Makes sense.
So
I
hard
like that.
conversation sometimes.
Yeah, definitely. I have one last question for you though
Yep.
before you go. So, the fitness industry is always pushing the idea of the instant results, quick fixes, right?
Yeah.
And we say sustainability and sustainable change is something that takes time. Now, people are always going towards the quick fixes, but in reality, it's sustainable fitness that is going to work, but it takes time. So, how did you help, or how do you help people manage their expectations when they don't see the immediate progress, and like how to keep them motivated because they expect a quick fix, they don't get a
Yeah.
quick fix, and what do
You
they?
have to give them something. That's kind of the thing, and that's the pushback I give to a lot of our colleagues now. Is like they're like, "Oh, you might not see weight loss for a couple weeks," and I'm like, they probably should if they're doing your program. So I think people should see some movement on scales and in their body within the first couple weeks, or else they're going to run away. Now that doesn't mean you have to starve them or anything like that. Taking them from whatever they were doing to a moderate deficit is probably enough, but still that might not be enough. Like some people might, they could lose 3 pounds the first week and that's great. But I would say, hey, some of that might be water weight because whatever you were doing, maybe you had more carbs, right? So now you cut the carbs, you lose a little bit of water. So I would help them acknowledge that. I would talk about how, healthy rate of speed should be maybe 1 to 2% of body weight per week on average. That doesn't mean every single week. And then in addition to that, you look for the non-scale victories. So like, how do you feel? Like, is your performance better? Are you sleeping better? Like, are your clothes fitting better? It's not just about the scale. There's so many different things to measure. And then it's just like, some people are just unreasonable. And that's what coaches need to realize. It's people come to us with a lot of previous dieting baggage. And we have to acknowledge that. And they're not crazy, right? They're a product of this crazy dieting culture that told them that they could lose 10 pounds every week. But the reality is they've been lied to. We need to set their record straight. and they have to be receptive to the reality of a good scientific approach when it comes to diet. If
Yeah.
they are not open to that, then maybe they need to try another couple fads and come back to us in another year. And I think
Yeah.
coaches, we have to accept that because we want everything to go the way we want it to go because we know better than them, but they don't care really. Sometimes they're just going to want that 10 pounds down.
Yeah.
So we can just talk to them like adults and have good conversations and see what happens. And we can come to it with data, common sense, and examples. And typically it works out.
Yeah, I mean, I've had those one-off clients who have they've gone down pant sizes, and they look
Yeah.
different, but the scale hasn't
Uh,
moved, and they're like it's
yeah.
not working, and I'm just like, I
Yeah.
don't know, I
Okay.
don't
Like,
know.
what does working mean? Right? Like, your
Yeah,
pants are falling off. Like, what do you want?
I want the number on that scale to go down. Oh, it would be great. People just throw that
Yeah.
scale out.
Oh, I
Well,
know.
Well, Mike, thank you so much. This has been such an insightful conversation, and yeah, I really like that we were kind of on the same wavelength.
Yeah. Same
I,
page. Same
yeah,
page. Yep.
I really enjoyed that. So yeah, thank you so much for coming on to the show and giving my listeners all your insight, and also me. Actually,
Yeah. Good. Good. Thank you for having me.
I'm happy to know that I'm on the right track after having
Yeah.
this
You.
conversation
You.
with you.
You get it. You get it. You're doing great.
Awesome. Thanks so much.
All right.
All
Yep.
right, guys. Thank you so much for listening to It's Pretty Simple. This week we had Mike. I'm going to put all his info down in the show notes below. If you like this episode, please make sure to hit like. If you're not subscribed, please subscribe. And if you think a friend will find this useful, please make sure to share it with them. I'll see you guys next week.